billboard clutter was barely on city leaders' radar. Most of the people couldn't care less, recalls Ted Wu, a former engineer. The soft-spoken Wu became an unlikely crusader, the go-to guy against billboard companies in the 1984. He helped city council toughen the codes and worked to pass a law preventing billboards from appearing within 600 feet of each other. Along the way, he met activist Jerry Silver, or Gary Silver, however you want to pronounce it. It's pronounced with it's Gerry, Jerry or Gary, whatever. A now retired professor at business administration at Long Beach City College. Silver and Wu in the 1990s decried the lack of height regulations on new towering billboards being placed atop LA buildings. When the city council heard about the activist pair, it ordered then city attorney James Hahn to stop the two concerned citizens. Then, major billboard firms joined the council's efforts. Quote, "We got pummeled by a huge amount of paperwork and pleadings," quote, end quote, recalls Silver with disgust. "Our volunteer attorney couldn't handle it. I couldn't even keep up with the reading. We ended up withdrawing the litigation. That is the story of fighting the billboard people. They were tigers and we were hummingbirds," end quote. Agreeing in Alpha Tucson, two modest Davids up against wealthy multinational Goliaths are chatting at Maui Wowie restaurant on Ventura Boulevard in Encino, just below a billboard that, unknown to most neighbors, will soon glow with ultra-bright, constantly changing digital ads visible far down the boulevard. Says Wu, quote, there are a couple more things that will make your hair stand up," end quote. While other cities launched highly effective billboard crackdowns, Los Angeles was mired in petty city council rivalries. Broad's final effort to ban news billboards, for instance, lost during an 8-7 election, with ticked-off Councilman Nate Holden acting as the swing no vote. As Holden recently told The Weekly, Broad had just shafted me on an issue unrelated to billboards. Holden giggles wickedly as he recalls, quote, "They were putting in all these monstrosities, those big apartment buildings. I said, let's not destroy the neighborhood and let's have a moratorium and change the ordinance. But," quote, "Broad and Councilman Michael Wu, the so-called environmentalists, were the two people who voted against Holden. I thought Broad was a hypocrite, so I voted against the ban on billboards. These damn hypocrites, I will teach you," end quote, he was thinking. Meanwhile, more organized cities like Houston, Jacksonville, Florida, Houston and Jacksonville, Florida, took the lead. In 1980, the Houston banned billboard after local newspapers articles dubbed it the ugliest city in America thanks to its sea of 100,000 billboards. Quote, "We were so ugly we couldn't even get businesses to relocate to Houston," end quote, remembers Margaret Lloyd, public policy advisor for the Scenic Houston movement. Quote, "It was simply because we had to had the vision in the 80s to stop it," end quote. A similar movement grew in Jacksonville, where residents overwhelmingly voted to ban new billboards in 1987, despite booming population and new development. The city was far less cluttered than it was 21 years ago because it has 1,000 fewer billboards. In 2001, Councilman Jack Wise called for a yearly billboard inspection fee on billboard owners, which would finance a long overdue city inventory of thousands of the signs bristling along the streets. Weiss had some pretty simple questions. Who owned them? Which ones were illegal? But Weiss, a former assistant U.S. attorney, proved no match for the ossified Los Angeles bureaucracy. Department of Building and Safety General and Manager Andrew Edelman, hired in 1997, was employing just 2 inspectors to police billboards across 469 square miles of territory. Quote, "The building department said, we are vigorously enforcing the sign laws in the city." Sorry about that. Wu notes, quote, "A couple of us looked at each other and almost choked," end quote. Now, Los Angeles, whose $7 billion budget includes the highest city council salaries in the United States at $171,000, while the people starve, I might add. Sorry about that. I don't like to interject into the article, but let me get back to the point. Employs just 3 billboard inspectors. In response to criticism, Edelman's inspectors in 1999 tried to survey a single stretch of Pico Boulevard. 5 years later, during one of the many lawsuits brought by billboard companies to stop the city from regulating them, an attorney for Clear Channel Outdoor asked about it. Inspector David Kime couldn't recall how many signs on Pico were illegal, or provide proof of how the department estimated that 40% of LA's billboards were illegal. Kime admitted that the city database was completely incapable of tracking violations. In 2001, Building and Safety Report called for hiring nearly 50 new city workers, including 39 inspectors, to help shut down the wave of illegal billboards. At the time, building officials openly admitted that it took them 2 hours to track down a single permit in their Byzantine filing system. That was 7 years ago. Today, the estimated time to track down a single permit in City Hall's files? 2 hours. Los Angeles' predicament is a lesson in how money and threats of lawsuits definitely talks in politics. In 2001, the same year, Edelman said Los Angeles needed 39 billboard inspectors. Outdoor advertising companies donating more than $400,000 in billboard space, touting Rocky Delgadillo for city attorney. End quote. Billboard opponent Mike Fuhrer, challenging Delgadillo for city attorney's job, lost. In other years, gigantic ads promoting Mayor James Hahn and council candidates Tony Cardenas and Jan Perry also appeared. Now a state assemblyman, Fuhrer recalls, quote, there were obviously political consequences to be paid for fighting billboards. The city has spent huge sums on underground wiring and landscaped medians to beautify streets. Yet from Reseda and Palms to Boyle Heights and Echo Park, cruddy billboards seem to make those efforts pointless. Michikowski, an art collector who lives in the beautiful enclave of Brentwood, believed Angelenos did not want to live with so much ugliness. She successfully pushed through the 2002 billboard ban, but it allows major exceptions that is now coming home to roost. The special sign districts, like those proposed by Reyes and Wesson. Under the 2002 ban, it looked like Los Angeles was going to go after the blight. The city even hired 20 billboard inspectors, but a month later, outdoor advertisers Vista Media, Regency, CBS Outdoor, and Clear Channel Outdoor won a federal injunction to stop the inspection program on the grounds that it violated their constitutional rights and that the $314 fee was excessive. The 20 billboard inspectors vanished. Quote, they didn't even get a chance to start, end quote, Hathaway recalls. Quote, they hired the people, then bam, the companies found a sympathetic judge, end quote. Sympathetic judge means corrupt judge, who accepts bribes. Anyway, back to the article. But then the Federal Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit reversed the judge, ruling that the billboard firms failed to show that a fee increase would cause them constitutional harm. It was the biggest victory against the billboard industry in Los Angeles, opening the way to finally create a list of lawless billboards and shut down the practice. But Delgadillo, Hahn, and later Villaraigosa wimped out. Instead of holding the billboard company's feet to the fire with an effective fee, inspection plan, and crackdown, Delgadillo agreed to settlement meetings with high-powered billboard industry attorneys. Those meetings led to a new mega deal that heaps rewards on the select few billboard companies. The deals with Vista, Clear Channel, CBS, and Regency mystified experts in the billboard wars, setting off rampant speculation since 2005 that city leaders are shills for billboard companies and that Delgadillo has been corrupted by accepting billboard feeds ads promoting his campaign. Quote, the city settled with the industry even though they were winning in the courts, recalls Kevin Fry, president of Scenic America, a Washington, D.C. nonprofit advocacy group. From the outside, it appeared that Delgadillo had lost control of the talks, then agreed to concessions that Fry says had nothing to do with the original issue in the lawsuit. Quote, the lawsuit the city won was about fees, end quote, but, quote, the settlement went way beyond that, end quote. One of the more credible terms approved by Delgadillo, the city councilman Villaraigosa, gives the two billboard companies 6 years to take down just 98 nuisance billboards, just 3% of their inventory. The billboard owners were even allowed to choose those they wanted to get rid of, Fry says. Quote, it was so minuscule, the billboard companies will take out the least performing, least profitable signs. We found the settlement unsettling and bizarre, end quote. Delgadillo and the city council buckled even further, slashing the inspection fee to $186 per structure. Moreover, the deal rewards misbehavior by CBS, Clear Channel, and others by grandfathering in an unknown number of illegal billboards that were standing before 1986. Gary Mobley, an attorney representing smaller firms who got no such deal, calls the Villaraigosa administration decision to look the other way insidious and unconscionable. But the biggest coup was the quiet move by Delgadillo, the city council, and the mayor, still widely unknown to Los Angeles residents, to let the offending companies modernize 877 billboards by transforming them into highly lucrative, controversial ultra-bright LED displays. The deal will affect scores of neighborhoods, introducing large LED signs said to be visible even through drawn curtains. The agreement was reached so quietly that even Wu, Hathaway, and Silver, the Davids fighting the Giants, heard about it too late to stop it. As Delgadillo and City Council met behind closed doors in late 2006, in fact, Dennis Hathaway was getting ready to personally test the city's archaic billboard policing system.